few things going on today's video. Today we're going to be getting all these trenches filled back in and getting this area prepped for seed, leveling it out, getting rid of the weeds, getting some water on it, and basically getting it to the point where I'm ready to put some grass down. So let's talk about that and show you guys how it's done. Back for day two. So today we're going to get the power rake out, fix all these humpy bumps and all the loose soil up. I could do it with the bucket, but I use the power rake because I just can. I love that thing. Make sure I'm aware of the sprinklers, and then after that, if there's any weeds still visible, we're going to spray that, and then we're going to go from there. All done with that power rake. Always super impressed with how that thing runs around the green. Does a really good job. Breaks up the clumps, levels it out, gets rid of the big Humpty Dumps in there. Mate, really good attachment. Super happy with it. Now, obviously not everyone's gonna have access to something like this when you're doing this on your own lawn at home. So what I did at my old place was use a rotary hoe. So I lightly used a rotary hoe on the whole area. It's gonna be a lot more manual work, but again, it's a smaller sized area, so it is a little bit easier. But you use a rotary hoe. I hired mine out from Kennards back in the day in town. Go over the whole lawn, and then what I did is I just hand raked the whole area and used my lawn level on top of that as well to get all the undulations out. And then I brought some more soil in on top of that. So I actually brought in some black nitro top dress from A&L, which I kind of wish I didn't do back then because it sort of broke down over time and left little humps and bumps all over the area. I wish I had just used either sand and mixed in with the soil that I had existing when I did the rotary hoeing, or I got in some nice topsoil that was washed and clean of most weeds in there. But that's the way you can do it. You don't have to use a machine like this to do a huge area like this. Now I've obviously got to keep raking and pulling all the rocks out, all the grass and stuff, but let's talk about the plan of attack from here. I'm not going to be bringing any more soil into this area at all. I'm going to use what's here. So this will cause a few issues for me, and this is what I've got to work on over the next little bit. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to see obviously lots of weeds coming up because I'll be watering this 2 to 3 times a day to actually get the weeds that are in this existing soil to germinate, because all this soil is from the existing paddock here. So I know there's a bit of paspalum, a bit of paddock grass, a bit of cooch, quite a bit of cooch actually, a tiny bit of Kikuyu, a bit of Fertilisers. There's quite a bit of everything in here. So my way to attack this is I'm going to be watering it constantly like I'm trying to get seed to germinate, and that will get the weeds to come up, and then I'll give it a hit with some glyphosate. One hit, I'm going to do it twice, and I'm going to start watering again 24 hours after that glyphosate application, and probably do it for another 5 to 6 days, and then spray that again, and then probably seed another couple of days after that. Because glyphosate is just a contact and it's not going to actually sit down in your soil like a residual sort of effect on it, not going to have a problem with actually seeding the next day. At my old place I did seed the next day and I had no problems at all. So that's the plan of attack, get the weeds to germinate here. Also watering will help settle the soil a bit and probably show up where the trenches were, so it'll probably sink down a bit where those trenches were. Might have to bring a bit more soil in. I have got some sand left over, so I might actually mix a little bit of the sand into here as well. Then obviously make my sprinkler heads level. I'm not going to do that until we know what the levels are of the existing soil around. Goal is I'm going to water for the next 2 days from here, and then on Friday I'm going to put my first application down of glyphosate, because it should push all the weeds back through that are sitting there. I've just covered a few with the dirt when I use the power rake. And then probably a week after that I'll spray again, then I'll be seeding the following week. So a week and a half away and we should be seeding. Following that we'll be doing the green as well, but the green won't be done, and I'll just explain this to you guys again, until the surrounding area has got grass and I've given it at least one cut. Now the reason for that is because I just don't want dust and stuff flying in there, and I want to be able to walk in this area into there without contaminating it, etc. Just, you know. And I want to do them both separately, because obviously the sand is going to require a little bit more water to get things to germinate, whereas the outside's going to require quite a bit less, because it's nice rich soil here, heaps of horse poo and cow poo in this stuff, so it's got a bit of a stink to it, almost like dynamic lifter. So really rich soil around the outside, so I think it's going to be very easy to get stuff to germinate in here. Whereas with the green, we're going to be using quite a few amendments and different things, like you do if you've got a pure sand green and you haven't mixed any organics in, to get the profile and the organic content bumped up quite a bit. So I can adjust these sprinklers to do 180s and not 360s, so they'll just do the outside while I'm seeding the outside, and then I'll adjust it back to the inside when I'm seeding the inside of the green, and then adjust it from there. It's going to be a bit of a process, and as I said, lots of videos throughout this, just to show you guys every single step of the way, so you guys can follow along and even copy some of this if you guys are going to do a overseed in autumn, or going to sow a cool season lawn in autumn this year as well. Not a great idea to be sowing something like Cooch or Kikuyu this time of year, but awesome idea if you want to be doing some ryegrass, Kentucky bluegrass, and tall fescue, any of those cool season grasses like that, and bent grass, if you're going to go down that way. Good time of year to be doing it once we're coming into autumn. Yo, so this morning we're getting some spraying done. So I'm getting it done early in the morning because there's no wind about at the moment, which is smart, and I've been watering it for a few days, so a lot of the weeds have popped back through. There's lots of cooch, bit of paspalum, bit of phalaris grass from when there was some cattle and some horses in here and stuff. There's a bit of everything in here, so I think I'm gonna have to do a follow-up application in a week's time. So what I'll do is spray this down now, whatever is here. So this is a contact, so it's not a residual, as I said, so it's not gonna stick in the soil for ages. So I'll spray it now and then leave for 24 hours without water on this area, and then water every day, 2 to 3 times a day for another week, and then spray it again, and then a couple of days after that we're going to seed this area. And the reason I'm doing this is just so we can get rid of as many weeds as we can before the seed comes up, so we're not fighting, especially cooch. Like, cooch would be frustrating. So I'm using glyphosate today, got a bit of wet out in there, and then I've also got some spray dye as well. This is all available on the website if you guys need some. Wet out is great to put in there because it just helps the chemicals stick to the leaf a little bit more. Now make sure we wear our PPE, so our mask, eye protection, little cotton overalls, elbow length, gloves as well. So, and some gum boots, because you always just got to be safe. Right, so that's all done. I am sweaty as, my goodness. Glad I came out early in the morning. Now, obviously some of the weeds are going to come back over the next week. That's why I'm going to do a follow-up spray. I know this is like a fiddly process, but it is really worth it. Like, I'm not going to regret spending an extra 2 weeks spraying out cooch, especially cooch, because if cooch gets in to the green or anywhere around the green, it's going to be really frustrating. So that's why we're spraying this too. I might even do it 3 times just to see how it looks in the next couple of weeks, which means it's probably going to be more towards middle of Feb now until we put down the rye, and then a little bit after that we put down the bent. Maybe earlier, it just depends on how much stuff comes back. The reason I've chosen ryegrass around the collar as well, which I haven't explained to you guys, is because ryegrass actually acts as a barrier against other grass types as well. So it will prevent, quite, not completely, but most of it, a lot of the cooch creeping into the green itself. It'll actually act as a barrier around the outside. So that's why we're doing Tiff Tuff on this fairway behind the camera here, which is a type of cooch grass. which would invade to the green over time if I didn't have like collar around the outside. So I've got to make sure that ryegrass is always nice and thick. I'm overseeding once a year, keeping on top of it, and even around the other side as well, like there's always, you could creep in over time. So we're going to make sure none of that creeps into our green, because the chemicals you need to use to get cooch and kikuyu out of bent grass, there's not many, and they're pretty intense, so I'd rather not be going down that route. Thanks guys so much for watching, really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow along in this journey, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You check out what's going on here. Now I am going to be showing you guys my seeding plan for around the green and the bent grass as well. And I'm thinking of doing a little plan up and putting it on the website next to my other lawn plans on there as well, if you guys are thinking about oversowing or seeding in the autumn time. So keep an eye out for that. I'll start working on that probably this week. But yeah, thanks guys so much. Thanks so much to the sponsors, Reese, Hutchin and Piers, everyone that's helping out with this whole project. I appreciate you guys so much. Would not have been able to do this without you guys, honestly. It's a big project. It's costing me, just for the materials for the green and everything around it, the subsurface drainage, all that sort of stuff, out of my own pocket, it's been about $23,000. And if you included the irrigation on top of that, and then all the equipment and everything, like we'd be, yeah, I don't even know, way too much. The irrigation itself's like more expensive than the green build itself, so yeah, you can figure it out. Anyway, thanks guys so much for watching, appreciate yous, and I'll see you soon.